There is a multi-billion-dollar industry built entirely on the fact that people hate their grey hair. So supplements and serums and powders and oils and pills, all promising to reverse it, slow it, stop it in its tracks. And I get it, everybody gets that. Grey hair carries a weight that other physical changes don't. It's visible, it is permanent, and for a lot of people, it starts much earlier than they expected. But most of what's being sold to you is exploiting that emotion. It's not solving the biology. So what I want to do in this video is tell you what the science actually says about why your hair goes grey, what genuinely influences it, and why the supplement industry's answer to this is almost always the wrong one. To understand why hair goes grey, you need to understand what gives it colour in the first place. So inside every single hair follicle, there are specialised cells called melanocytes, which produce something called melanin, the pigment that gives your hair its colour. But melanocytes can't live forever on their own. They need to be constantly replenished by melanocyte stem cells, which sit in a specific part of the follicle and act like a reservoir. Every time a new hair grows, that reservoir gets drawn on. The stem cells produce fresh melanocytes, the melanocytes then produce melanin, and your hair comes out with colour. Think of it like an ink cartridge that slowly stops refilling. When the supply runs out, or when those stem cells get damaged or depleted faster than expected, new hairs grow in with little to no pigment, and that is what grey hair is. That is the biology in its simplest form, and everything else like genetics and lifestyle and stress and diet works through this same pathway. Now, genetics is unquestionably the biggest single determinant of when this process starts for you. If your parents went grey early, then the chances are you will too. Genome-wide association studies, so large-scale genetic surveys across thousands and thousands of people, have identified specific genes, including IRF4, which are directly linked to the timing of greying. And this is inherited from your parents. It's real, and no supplement is going to change your genetic baseline. But here's the framing that actually matters here. Genetics sort of loads the gun. It sets a window. What fills that window, how quickly you move through it, is significantly shaped by how you live. The best way to illustrate that is with a thought experiment. So take two identical twins, same DNA, same genetic predisposition to go grey early. One of them leads a really healthy lifestyle, so they have really good sleep, they exercise regularly, a whole food diet, they manage their stress really well. But the other twin doesn't. Now, decades and decades of research on twins shows us that lifestyle factors can shift life expectancy by 10 years or more between genetically identical people. The same biological processes driving that difference in lifespan are operating inside the hair follicle as well. So the twin with the healthy lifestyle may still go grey, but far later, more gradually, and against a backdrop of a body that's aging more slowly in every system that matters. So basically what this means is that genetics is a starting point. It's not a fixed destination. So if lifestyle can move the needle, the question is how? And the most compelling mechanistic evidence comes from a landmark paper in 2020 published in Nature. So researchers showed that acute psychological stress led to rapid depletion of these melanocyte stem cells through a very specific chain of events. So stress activates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, which floods the follicles with a chemical called noradrenaline, or norepinephrine if you're in America. Now that causes the stem cells to overactivate, divide too quickly, and then burn through the reservoir far faster than normal aging would. Once those stem cells are gone, they don't come back. The follicle permanently loses its ability to replenish melanocytes, and every new hair it produces afterwards comes out grey. Now, this was research on animals, but the mechanism maps directly onto human stress biology as well, and it aligns with what we've actually seen clinically for years, and that is people reporting rapid shifts in hair colour during periods of extreme psychological pressure. Chronic unmanaged stress almost certainly plays a massive role in this greying process, and it has real implications for what we should actually be paying attention to. Now, closely related to that is something called oxidative stress, which is the other major biological driver. And this is where the story extends well beyond just your hair. So oxidative stress is cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals, which accumulate faster when you're sleeping poorly, when you're eating a low quality diet, when you're exercising quite infrequently, or when you're living under chronic stress. Now, human follicle studies have actually shown that this oxidative damage specifically targets melanocytes and their stem cells, wearing down the pigment system over time. But the same process is simultaneously aging your arteries, damaging your brain cells, and driving metabolic dysfunction across virtually every organ system in the body. Basically, what this means is that the follicle doesn't live in isolation. It lives inside the same biological environment as your heart and your brain, and it responds to the same inputs. The Premature trial, which I've mentioned many times before, one of the largest dietary intervention trials ever conducted, followed over 7,000 people across multiple years and showed that a Mediterranean dietary pattern dramatically reduced systemic oxidative stress, inflammatory markers, and cardiovascular risk compared with just a basic low-fat controlled diet. The Lion Diet Heart study following survivors of heart attacks found that a Mediterranean-style diet reduced the risk of a second cardiovascular event by over 70%. Now, these are landmark human trials with thousands and thousands of participants, and what they demonstrate is that the way you eat fundamentally changes the biological environment that every cell in your body operates in, including the cells responsible for pigmenting your hair. And the same logic applies to exercise as well. So a 2019 meta-analysis, pulling together data from multiple randomized control trials, found that regular aerobic and resistance exercise significantly reduces the markers of oxidative damage and also improves the body's own antioxidant defenses as well. The Heritage Family Study, which followed hundreds of sedentary adults through a structured exercise program, this showed massive improvements in mitochondrial function, in insulin sensitivity, and inflammatory markers as well, all of which sit upstream of the cellular aging processes affecting your follicle health. Exercise also directly counteracts the sympathetic nervous system, which is what the Nature Stress paper identified as a key driver of this stem cell depletion. The pathways here are shared, the evidence is consistent, and unlike anything being sold in a supplement aisle or by other doctors on YouTube, exercise improves every system in your body simultaneously: your cardiovascular health, your metabolic health, your cognitive function, and the biological environment that your hair follicles are operating in. Now, I've got to mention smoking here. Smoking sits in a similar category to chronic stress in terms of its impact here. Multiple independent observational studies, including a large analysis published examining over 1,000 people, found a consistent association between smoking and premature greying, even after controlling for things like age. And the mechanism here is the same one that we keep coming back to. Smoking dramatically amplifies oxidative stress and compromises the blood flow to peripheral tissues, including the scalp. So if you smoke and you're going grey earlier than you expected, then you've got to bloody stop smoking. This is the most obvious thing here. Now, another thing people ask me is all about nutrient deficiencies. Now, these really are worth addressing separately because they're real and they are correctable as well. So low B12, low ferritin, low copper as well, thyroid dysfunction, vitamin D, these have all been associated with premature greying in the clinical literature. If you're under the age of 40 and your hair is greying rapidly, then you've got to have a blood test with your doctor. These are absolutely fixable, and correcting a real measured deficiency can influence the process. But that said, correcting a deficiency is a fundamentally different thing from a healthy, well-nourished adult taking a supplement to reverse age-related graying. And the supplement industry does not make that distinction clearly because it's not in their financial interest to do so. So basically, rather than taking a supplement for graying that says it's going to replenish your copper stores, just go and have a blood test with your GP, and they will either tell you that you are low on something and prescribe you the actual medication, or they will say all of your levels are fine, and that will be proof that the supplement isn't worth it. Now, there are some small and more recent trials suggesting very marginal benefits from very specific compounds. So things like catalase supplements or high-dose antioxidants or certain amino acid formulations. Some of these show modest signals in very small populations, and I'm not dismissing those studies entirely, but the sample sizes are small, the follow-up periods are very short, and the methodologies are inconsistent. And the effect sizes are nowhere near what the marketing implies, and the chances are these studies are actually funded by the supplement companies as well. When a company takes a trial of 40 people over 8 weeks and uses it to claim that their product restores your natural colour, that is exploitation of an emotional trigger dressed up as science. Getting grey hair is one of the most emotionally loaded physical changes that you can experience. It's associated with lost youth, with lost relevance, with being overlooked. And that emotional current right there is exactly what gets monetized. You know, these products don't really need to work that well. They just need to reach you at the right moment. For me, the evidence is pretty clear. There is no supplement that has robust and replicated and large-scale human trial data showing that it consistently reverses or meaningfully slows age-related graying in healthy adults. What does have that evidence, though, is lifestyle, and that is the stuff that I talk about in pretty much every single video across this channel. So that includes the Mediterranean diet, it includes regular structured exercise, adequate sleep, not smoking, and managing your stress load. This is what the evidence says actually works. And the great thing about this sort of stuff is that it's free, but it also doesn't just work on your hair, but it works on every biological system that determines how long you live and how well you live as well. Your brain and your heart and your kidneys and your liver and your skin as well, all of it responds to the same inputs. And the same trials that show cardiovascular protection are showing us the biology that protects your follicles as well. Some people will go grey before the age of 30. That is just genetics. I work with a couple of people that have been grey for years and they're my age. And I'm already getting a few grey hairs at the side, which to be honest, I don't really like, but it is what it is. Genetics is really powerful. And for some people, their window is really narrow, regardless of how well they live. But narrow doesn't mean closed. Even just a small delay, greying more gradually or later than you otherwise would, happens against the backdrop of a body that is aging more slowly in every other system. So you're not just potentially protecting your hair colour, you're protecting your arteries, your cognition, your metabolic resilience for decades. The grey hair is just the visible surface of a much deeper biological process, and the tools that slow that process do not come in a capsule. So if you want to slow down the process of your hair going grey, then you've got to become interested in lifestyle medicine and preventative medicine. And that is what this entire channel is all about.